Hi, I'm Angel, and today we're gonna talk about Marshall. Not Marshall's the store, because it's funny, while I was watching the movie, my mom texted me that she was at Marshall's, and I was like, hey, I'm with Marshall too, sort of. The 2017 movie Marshall is about Thurgood Marshall, the first African-American Supreme Court Justice. I was personally interested in the movie because I saw Mr. 42, Jackie Robinson, aka James Brown, aka Black Panther, aka Chadwick Boseman, was starring in it. And he seems to do a lot of biopics, so I thought, okay, here's another one. Then I saw that Josh Gad was part of it. I was like, oh, Josh Gad, oh, we're gonna laugh a little bit. Interesting. I saw that my boo Dan Stevens was in it, and I was like, okay, a little bit of eye candy. And Kate Hudson, which, you know, I like. And of course, Sterling K. Brown. I was like, oh, he's gonna be a lawyer. It's gonna be really interesting. It's not what I expected at all. Now, like I said, this is a biopic, so these are based on real events. This is a real person, and we're looking at a specific case that Thurgood Marshall and Sam Friedman worked together on. At first, when the movie started off, I was kind of like getting a Rush Hour vibe from this, where you have Sam Friedman, he kind of doesn't want to work with anybody else, or he's busy doing his own thing, and all of a sudden we're like giving him an opportunity to do something new with someone that is not from his neck of the woods, and he's kind of thrown into it like, yeah, well, your brother signed off on it, so now you have to work with this guy named Thurgood Marshall on this case that's not at all in your domain of law. I didn't really understand why they chose him and why he was recruited for this. Maybe I'm missing a bit of law jargon terminology, or I wasn't paying close enough attention. I just accepted it. It's Rush Hour. We got our two characters thrown together. Let's see how these two are going to interact. Of course, at first, you're gonna have the same beats. They're not gonna wanna work together, but eventually they will connect on the case or something. Something will bring them together and they will fight for common interest. And that's basically what you have here. I was also thinking of To Kill a Mockingbird when I saw this movie. And if you've seen To Kill a Mockingbird, you kind of know where that story goes. It kind of goes in the same direction here. I thought it was peculiar that they chose this story in particular to tell out of all the events in Thurgood Marshall's life. It would have been interesting to see, what is it, Brown versus Board of Education, you know, the end of segregation in schools. But to be fair, maybe there's already a documentary covering it that I'm not aware of. Maybe there's many documentaries about it, and it would probably be more interesting in a documentary and less... That's my way of characterizing these movies, where they're like so self-important that it kind of almost takes away from the real life events in the way that they're just like, racism, so bad, I'm going to rise above and fight for your right, when real life is way more sticky, tricky, and kind of more cut and dry. And there's a lot of court documents, and there's a lot of reading, and there's a lot of this and that, and going back and forth. And I feel like this movie was more about Sam and more about his relationship with Thurgood than it was actually about Marshall, Mr. Marshall, which this movie was supposed to be about, right? He kind of comes off a bit too clean. We don't really dive into who he is as a person, why he does the things he does. Okay, obviously, he's fighting for racial equality, but I don't know, he kind of just swoops in as the typical magical Negro, which is a cinematic trope where he infuses this Jewish white man with this sense of purpose and righteousness and all, and then he magically disappears again, right? I don't know, I was kind of left confused by what I just saw. It's a good story and it's told really well, and the case itself is interesting. Then you have jury selection, which they kind of went through but glossed over, which is also a very important and interesting part of any legal proceeding. And then Dan Stevens comes, but he isn't like yummy like he is in that other movie, The Guest, but he's still cute. And very early on in the movie, we're thrown into the movie with a bunch of N-words, and I was just like, oh, you know, maybe I have N-word fatigue. I feel like certain movies use the N-word as an emotional manipulation to get you riled up and into the movie, and now you're like, oh, racism bad, that's a bad person because he used the N-word, and he's mean, and he's dressed in overalls, and he's dirty, and he has a cowboy hat, so he must be from the South. But I kept reminding myself, maybe this is, they're just trying to say this is how things were. The N-word was thrown around very casually and not so kindly. But I don't know, maybe it's because I've seen way too many of racial equality movies. It could just be a personal fatigue that I'm expressing here. But here it didn't feel like it was so necessary to telling the story. Josh Gad gave a great performance. I really enjoyed it. I even forgot that he was a comedian. He was really good. I love the coming together of this Jewish man and this black man in America, in a segregated America, because hello, these people should be helping one another. You guys know what it's like to be just put down and discriminated against, so why not help each other? It's like, it makes sense. We're stronger as a unit. I'm not asking for a race war or anything. I think all of humanity needs to come together. I actually think that's the problem with the concept of community, because it involves a group of people, but it also needs an outside group of people, an us versus them, to create a community, to create a conglomerate. And that I find a bit problematic. But to get back to the story, Sterling K. Brown, I think, was underutilized. I didn't really understand what he was going for. It was kind of bumbly, his performance. I don't know, massa. It wasn't a standout performance. Kate Hudson did a good job. You know, she was believable as her character. There was this weird scene in the bathroom of the synagogue, I think, with the Jewish guy giving Sam $5. That was weird because it felt like he was like secretly pro helping our black brothers and sisters. That was ambiguous. Hey, why are you helping them? This looks bad on our community. Here's $5. Good job. Your dad would be proud. We also have an appearance from Andra Day, I think her name is, the singer. Hello, she fits perfectly in that context. A Billie Holiday-esque performance, performing in a bar basically, but a fancy bar, so I guess it was called the club back in the day. I was tickled by some of the people they chose, like Chilli from TLC makes an appearance. My man from Empire who played Langston Hughes, of all people, but I know him as Jamal Lyon. Little things like that. People came and went and I was like, oh, I know this person, oh, I know that person. But some performances were a bit theatrical. I say my line, then you say your line. Well, the people are really gonna be talking about this tomorrow night. Conclusion, overall, it's a good movie. It's not bad. It's worth a watch, but it's not thrilling. It doesn't bring anything really new. It's just an entertaining movie, and you don't really learn much about Thurgood Marshall, so if that's why you want to watch it, you're gonna not get your rocks knocked. But still, it's enjoyable just to see justice being served. I mean, that judge was like ready to be bigoted and biased and bitter and salty and nippy, but they showed him that, you know what, we're lawyers and we can actually do law. So in that sense, if you like seeing movies about justice and the legal system, you'll enjoy this movie. There you go. Maybe I didn't mention some things. Maybe I said some things you don't agree with, or you do agree with. I would love to hear from you. Let us know what you thought of Marshall in the comment section below. And are there any other movies you would like me to review? Please let me know. I would be happy to hear from you. Click that like button, subscribe to Music Game News if you haven't already, and thank you so much for watching again. I'm Angel signing off. Cheers.